Mårten Ulvsbäck, working in the product management team here at Connexion, and will guide us through eUICC in practice, for whom and why. So with that, fire away, Mårten.
Thank you, Martin. Okay, as you all know, there is a lot of buzz about embedded UICC out on the market. But do we always talk about this topic in the same way? I will in this presentation clarify our view on what is embedded UICC, the different standards, when to use embedded UICC, pros and cons, and also about our future plans. So we start with what is embedded UICC, and we start with a SIM card. What's the difference between a standard SIM card versus an embedded UICC SIM? Every SIM includes an operator profile where you can find info about your SIM. In a standard SIM, that profile is fixed. So if you want to change the profile, you need to change the physical SIM card. In an embedded UICC SIM, you also got the profile. But in this case, you are able to replace it. And you can do it over there without changing the physical SIM card. So that's the difference. When you change a profile, it's called a swap. To be able to use an embedded UICC SIM card, you need to be connected to a remote SIM provisioning platform. There are two different standards on the market today. We have the M2M version and the consumer version. The main difference between the two standards is the direction of control. In the M2M standard, you as an enterprise control all your devices. But in the consumer version, every single user got the control. In our offer from Telenor IoT, we include all necessary components you need, and we sell it as a bundled service. So a little bit when to use embedded UICC. It could be a lot of reasons, but here are two examples. Of course, as an insurance, if there is a need to change profile in future. But embedded UICC can also be an enabler for achieving global access. And as Mats mentioned here before, we have launched a new service around this. And this is a service where permanent roaming is prohibited. Because even if Telenor IoT have a very broad roaming portfolio, there are some countries where permanent roaming is forbidden, and this due to local regulatory reasons. To solve this, we have developed a service called GSLA, Global Subscription with Local Access. And we take an example to describe the service. Say that you already have an ongoing business, you export products to different countries in the world and using our roaming access. Now you want to broaden your business even to Brazil. And Brazil is one of those countries where permanent roaming is forbidden. Via our service using embedded UICC, we now can change our profile on the embedded UICC SIM card to a local profile, a local operator profile, in this case Arkia. So now you have local access in Brazil and using roaming access in the rest of the world. The benefits for you as an enterprise is that via our service you only need one contract, one API. You get one invoice, and you use only one support center for both access options. So what's our future plans for embedded UICC? Even if the embedded UICC technology is quite new, and even if the market is quite immature, we already see demands for a simpler and less complex standard as a complement to our existing M2M standard. We therefore took a decision last year to try to investigate whether this is possible or not, and if, how. To describe on a very high level what we analyzed, we need to go back to the two different standards. The M2M version includes functionality for data protection and secure routing for your subscriptions. The consumer version also includes functionality for this, but here some functionality is divided between the platform and the device. In the device, you find functionality for profile management called LPA, Local Profile Assistant. There are pros and cons with both platforms. For example, in the M2M version, you can manage a lot of devices at the same time. But the cons is that if you want to do a swap, you need to start something called a swap project. And this is due to the GSMR standard process. This takes time and costs money, so this is nothing you do on a daily basis. In the consumer version, you are able to do swaps more flexible and to a lower cost. But the cons is that you need to do it from every single device, so it's end user controlled. So the question is it possible to merge the pros from the M2M version and the pros from the consumer version into a hybrid version, a third version, as a complement to the M2M version? To ensure a future possible standardized solution, we do this analysis in a joint project called LPR Cloud, and we do it together with two of the world-leading players in the value chain. We lead from Telenor IoT the project, and the common goal is to define a new GSMA standard. And the status right now is that we are currently implementing a technical proof of concept. So, what is our working hypothesis in this joint project? We want to see if it's possible to use the consumer version of the platform also for M2M related business. Is it possible to connect, for example, DCP to the consumer version? Instead of having all these LPAs in every single device, is it possible to collect them into a cloud? And from DCP have the possibility to manage, control the profiles. If we succeed, you now see that we got the possibility to change the direction of control and also change the consumer-related products to M2M related products. So if we now compare the LPR Cloud version based on the consumer version, we now see a lot of similarities compared to the M2M version. We got the direction of control. We got the possibility to manage several devices at the same time. And we also merge the pros from the consumer standard and the M2M standard into a potential new standard. So the question is, Will we see a new standard as a complement to the M2M standard? We don't know yet, and it will take time. But now you know that we are working on it, and if you want to know the status of the progress in the future, you are always welcome to contact us and have discussions around this. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Mårten, to, in a pedagogical way, guide us through this very complex area of eUICC, actually. And as you understand after this, we recognize this complexity as well. We are doing what we can to see what we could potentially do tomorrow instead in a more convenient way for all of us, because we strongly believe that this type of technology is needed, but we also need to make it industrialized in a way that it fulfills the business requirements of you. Meanwhile, of course, the M2M version is here and very usable, and I believe that the launches that we are having now in Brazil and more countries to come there will serve a good purpose for many of you as well. But of course, this topic is interesting to follow with the Cloud LPA version instead. So thank you, Mårten.